Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. I should have got red. I totally forgot. It was kind of a crazy morning. So it is the 9th of August. Let's see, August. So we got, I think August must be a 30-day month. And so that means that we are 21 days away from the end of the month, August. And then that's when we get really hot here, just for a little bit, and then it cools down. But yeah, we're right towards the back half of the hot times. All right, so we are trying to write end-to-end tests. Yesterday, I abandoned the concept of unit testing. I'm actually starting to rethink that a little bit. One thing when I did the end-to-end testing, it was just like first I by default you can or you can go into your Angular application and you can install Cypress, and I ended up thinking that was a really bad idea because that ends up deeply coupling the versions of TypeScript between between um, Cypress and uh, Angular. And I think the people at the Cypress folks, I think they do a pretty good job of keeping up. And so, they had done a pretty good, like when I ended up pulling my Cypress whole Cypress application out because it wasn't working and importing it into a new folder, and it has its own packages files. Thus, it has its own TypeScript. And when I did, I ended up with the version of TypeScript that was compatible with Angular. So with the Angular 22, which that's great. That's awesome. So all I would have had to do was upgrade my Cypress to the latest and I would have been good. But why? Why do I need to upgrade Cypress, right? It doesn't change that much. So I pulled it out and it's decoupled, completely decoupled from the application, which I think is a really good thing. But it's a bad thing that I mean, no, that ended up being a really good thing, and I like it. But I still had like my Karma Jasmine inside with my Angular, and it actually generates the type t- the specs. But honestly, I would rather have that completely independent too. And why do I need to unit test components and stuff like that? You know, it seems like it would make a lot more sense to unit test just the functions, the units. Right now, it has to build up that and sort of run it in the context of the component, which is great. I mean, that's fantastic. That's actually nice because, like, if it doesn't work in the component, it doesn't work. But at the same time, then, if the folks at Angular just decide, hey, we're not supporting this anymore, you're just out of luck. And that's exactly what's happened to me. I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours on unit testing and all for naught because I did an upgrade. I mean, I just used a new Angular technique um, for scoping and all my unit tests broke everywhere. Like there was nothing, I couldn't just be like, oh, just ignore this one. Like it broke everywhere. Um, so it seems like it would be better to have my unit tests outside of Angular. If it's inside of Angular, it's really not a unit test, it's an integration test. And honestly, until Angular builds their own unit test scheme that's just for them, that's just for Angular, built custom for Angular, I probably I either want to be fully coupled or decoupled. I don't want to be kind of partially coupled and partially decoupled, which is exactly what Karma Jasmine is. So maybe I will come back around and get unit tests rolling again. Um, and I probably would just want to start from scratch in some unit tests thing. And actually, I guess while we're here, I might as well just ask real quick before we do this last end-to-end test. But so toying with the idea of creating unit tests that for my Angular application, but is not part of the Angular application. So these words, right? Like I am toying with the idea of creating a unit test for my Angular application, um, but um, with the unit testing system not being part of the Angular application. So these are words, right? I put them together. Honestly, like what I want is probably 1,000 times harder than this little narrative I just came up with. I just came up with a little narrative to describe what I want. But what I want is way more complex than this and way more like in depth. But like I mean I don't want to write a whole paragraph, so I don't know. But I think this is enough information for ChatGPT to kind of get an idea of what I want. Your Angular application, yeah, screw VI test. Um, I don't really have a problem with VI test, but I just don't. I really wish they had it given up. I don't blame them for giving up on Karma Jasmine. I mean, obviously it's got issues, but so like, yeah. See, I don't really want to. I mean, I think I just want. I think that I just want to test the functions, not the Angular platform. More compelling, you're not really trying to test Angular, try to test your TypeScript code that happens to live outside of Angular. But it goes beyond TypeScript, right? Beyond TypeScript. TypeScript. You know, the because the functions use Angular specific decorators and things like that. Things like that. You don't want to extract the functions out of Angular. You want to execute the actual Angular application code in a test environment without testing the Angular runtime itself. Yeah. Yeah. So have an effect inside of Angular. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. Angular, I don't know what to think about that. Effect like this. Yeah. Yeah, so that. Yeah, see, this one's super easy to test, right? Because of that. But then I'm not really trying to accomplish anything. I'm just trying to imagine. Yeah, see, this is the problem. You do not want, like, you probably want to. So if you unit tested everything, you would probably end up avoiding stuff like that, like having that inside of an effect or something. You would want to have that inside of a function that you're calling directly. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not exactly sure, but because, I don't know. And I still don't even know, like, if there is any value to unit testing. I guess we'll find out now that we don't have unit testing. will it happen? Will the day come where I like, it would have been nice to have unit tests at this point. This is where it'd be nice to have unit tests. But right now, like the problem is that I need to carve out some time for focusing on line by line understanding instead of um, trying to understand things like even like that's the thing is I actually want even mentally to ignore everything outside of each individual line of code. I guess that's the thing. Maybe I need to come at it with ChatGPT that way. Like, hey, I want to test at every line. I want to make sure that I want some time where I have ensured that I actually did a deep dive on every single line of code. I mean, you can do a lot without that. But so now we're running the update, and I'm getting into the meat of the purpose of this session. And the purpose of this session, and not all my sessions have a purpose, but the purpose of this session is to test, to write an end-to-end test that tests this guy toggling on and off. And honestly, it seems like a weird end-to-end test, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't seem like a weird end-to-end test, but it it's like so obvious what this is supposed to do. But it's crazy how like something seems so obvious like this, and then after like a few months, like no one remembers what it used to do. Like you could have a room full of 20 people that use this, and you can be like, now what did that do? And nobody remembers. And then the end-to-end tests have it. It's like this thing was supposed to click, and you're like, oh, I remember seeing that end-to-end test passed. So okay, so this finally went done. So right now we did take care of the zooms and all that, and it's pretty cool. Like I think, well, it probably happens so fast that you can't really enjoy it, but that's it, testing everything. Um, but now we're gonna try the actual this guy, this button, and we just want to make sure that it toggles back and forth. All right, so now let's go back to our code. And we are already in the right place because that's where we were yesterday. And then I guess we're just going to go with the same pattern. Ensures that um, I guess you would call it, what is the name of here, let's just do this. Let's see. So we are trying to test this guy right here. So let's look at view, and we go from view to configured. So I would guess we would call that view mode, maybe. View mode. So the view mode. Now, what I don't know is yeah, I think this is exactly where you would throw in like actually checking things too. These functions are gonna get expanded, and when these functions get expanded, then we're like, um, um, oh, like if we were writing regular code, like if it was just regular code, we would be like, I would be like nervous right now. I'd be like, ooh, this is just growing out of control. This is going to be like this is uncontrolled growth here. Um, but that's fine in this context because in this context, like at the end of the day, you're not building like there's nothing that's going to be using this to be like when we add additional things, we're just going to add additional things. We're not going to build something else that then consumes this to be able to do its job. And since we aren't going to do that, since it's not part of a larger thing, um, it doesn't need to be like as carefully sort of manicured, like you don't have to be so careful about where everything gets laid out because It's like whatever, you just delete the whole thing. It doesn't matter. Like if I delete this whole thing, it doesn't break, nothing else breaks because I deleted this whole thing. If I make some change in here, nothing else breaks because I made a change in here. And if something else does break because I made a change in here, then that's really the problem. Um, and I do think that probably was one of the major problems with Karma Jasmine. With Karma Jasmine, the order that you ran things could affect the outcome and things like that. And the thing is it didn't consistently run things in the same order. So like it just had race conditions all over the place in there. It's a pretty old technology that was bolted onto a brand new thing, so it doesn't quite work that well. Um, all right, so now I want to select this thing here. So first of all, let's get rid of this. Oh, did we get rid of, yeah, okay. So I used to have to look this up every time, but now I remember how to do it. And I could have continued to always look it up and not remember. Like I really could have. Like I could have just always been like, oh, how do you do that again? And just go look it up. But I tried really hard to do it out of memory. And then after a little bit, my memory just started working. But we want to make sure that this runs all by itself. And we know that we want to create one. We want to go in the menu. We want to toggle the layout. We want to do the update viz. And then that's the end of this little thing. And it is the most tempting thing in the world to make like a little function that's like get started or something, and just everyone just calls that. Um, I have found that it's pretty useful if you do make a change that ends up rippling through all of these things. It's actually pretty useful to know that you did that, because you've probably made like a very, very actually impactful change. All right, so now we're just running this one. All it does is go there. And so now we want to select this thing here, and we just need to know what the name of actually, it's probably the next line too on here. So zoom value. So this is one of our buttons. So this is where we get a button and click it. Now this is not the button we want, but there we go. And now we just want to get, this is the name of the button here. This is the ID, the Cypress ID that I invented, this like data-cy. Um, in my personal experience, that data dash thing is by far the best way to do that. Okay, so this is close update full screen button. I don't know if I like that name, but that's the name. I don't know if I just like the name. You always have to balance that, right? Like, okay, I'm reading this name now. It doesn't seem to make sense to me at this point, but it did make sense to me when I was deep in this code. So I don't know why it made sense to me when I was deep in the code. So now we click it, and I don't even know if that's the right one. So let's just double check that that's the right one, because we might actually want the other button, because this one toggles back and forth. I think it might be waiting. I don't know. Oh, so now that found it and it closed it. And so now it might be open update full screen button. I'm wondering if that's what that arrow back and forth is. Inspect. So that's closed. Okay. Oh, it's because every time I go to inspect it. Okay, this is weird. Inspect. Open update. Yeah, so let's go and click the open. And I think that will do it. Okay. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so it looks like we're passing. So I think it's pretty helpful usually when you're doing stuff like this to actually fail the tests. I know it sounds weird, but like sometimes you end up with like everything just keeps working and you're like, oh, okay, so we're good. But then you find out that, oh, it wasn't ever actually doing anything. So let's see what we get here. Yeah, see, now it's failing. So what I did was I swapped it. I said, so try to hit the open when it's already closed and close when it's already open. So that's what I want. And I don't think flexibility is what you want out of testing. You do like regular coding, like the end goal is to be very, very flexible. Probably most of the time, many times, the goal is to be extremely flexible so that because it's very difficult to predict all the requirements ahead of time. So you want to optimize for like flexibility normally, but I don't think in testing you want to optimize for flexibility. I think you actually want to optimize for reliable, like consistency um, between sessions. Not even consistency between the code, but consistency between the sessions. So now I'm going to make this like for everything. I've literally never ever seen a situation where like getting something in Cypress to pass in one test causes another test to fail or something. Um, it could be just the way I test, like the way I write my tests. Like I've come up with some sort of habit that has kept me off of that, but I've never seen this problem. All right, so that is working. So just one last kind of run through of all the unit tests, of all the end-to-end tests, um, and then slowly but surely, I'm just going to start deleting out unit tests and getting rid of them. Um, and like I said, I might at some point start um, trying to take another um, another approach to unit testing. Now, I think if I find some way to like sort of decouple my unit testing, um, then there's a good chance that I won't be able to get to 100% because, it should just ignore anything that is like super specific to Angular, I would think. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think what I'm imagining exists, but it might. I can't tell you how many times I've imagined something and then found out that it is it's like there's a whole community that's doing it. Tens of thousands of people are doing exactly what I was imagining, and they've done a good job. I remember when my youngest son was about 3 years old, he got into the car one day and he was just like, "Can you please put the cartoon radio station on?" We were all like, "There's no such thing. This is ridiculous. What a crazy idea. Why do you?" And then I realized pretty much every other aspect of his life has had a child version of it. There's like a child version of movies. There's a child version of TV shows. There's a child version of channels. There's a child version of toys. Like everything had like versions of it, but for some strange reason there was no child version of radio stations, which I would imagine that would probably actually crush it right now if you had a FM radio station that just had child orientated things and you were careful and you didn't let anything awful get on there. I know I'd probably listen to it, especially when my granddaughter's in the car. But anyway, so that is that. I guess the only next step would be to like uh, review the code, and so we'll kill this. And then this one's kind of hard because this is different. This is a new one because I do have, so Cypress changes and these are different. So let's just do this and just see what we changed. I think it all looks like all good stuff. So it's all stuff I want to keep. And this is, and I guess I want this to be the exact same commit message, right? So what I generally will put was the video and the issue. but the issue is not in this branch. So let me hop over here. This is such a new experience for me. I've never really worked multiple repos like this. So this is update layout. So it's isolated to just updates. That is fascinating. Okay, so that was so I did way beyond that comment. So this is going to be interesting. I don't think I'd ever. I like having a mono repo where you have a single repo that's got everything in it. So this is 572. Oh, it's already staged. We're in Cypress. Git status. So we should see just one green thing. Yeah. So git commit -m video 572 updates. Um, updates the updates E to E tests for buttons for min for view buttons. And I guess I could even put update view buttons. And I guess this commit is very different than the other commit. They're both video. Oh, I misspelled video. 570. They're both video 572, but one is for updating. And let's git push. And then the other is for this. Yeah, I think I want this one. Update. I don't think I want the README. I might, but I don't think so. Oops, where are you? README. I think I might even want to get rid of the README completely. Let's see what I have in there. Yep. So I ended up not doing that part, but we don't want this. Okay, so this is gone. Easy come, easy go. Okay, let's look at this. Just make sure there's nothing goofy in here. I'm just looking smell test at this point. Okay, so literally all I did was put this in the providers. Oh, so that was the first time I did that. And I did try running unit tests, and that was it. That one broke. That broke my back. That one was just too much. I think that conversation that I had, that makes sense with ChatGPT. I'm just hoping I see it being used someplace else. And that will be in a in a template. And I'm guessing that's probably what I'm using for the button to hide and show the button. Okay, so this, yeah. I'm going to circle back and look at the template here in a second, just to make sure that I'm actually using that hidden CSS. Because I don't really want to add a CSS that isn't being used. It's just like so hard, right? Like when you delete probably the biggest, now that I think about it, that probably is the biggest problem with CSS actually is that it is extremely difficult to determine if you just did a bad side effect. All right. Oh, yep. There's our hidden class dot hidden. Okay. Get add. Are we in the right one? Nope. Let's go to the right one. CD dot dot CD space and time. CD. Yeah, that's right. Get status. What we should see like 8 files or 8 green files or something like that. Yep, that looks right. And that little thing that I just did where I was like, okay, this is what I'm expecting. I just can't even tell you how much mentally more stable you feel at the end of the day when you've been doing that all day, when you've been like guessing what's going to happen and then doing something and then what you guessed happened. That is such a good feeling. And like those stack up throughout the day. Whereas if you like you're just doing stuff and hoping it works out and then do the next thing and hope it works out and then do the next thing, like all that does is stack up. For me, all it does is stack up stress. So this just unwound a bunch of stress because I was like, okay, there should be eight. Oh, there is eight. Oh, this is exactly. Oh yeah, I see eight up there. See that number eight just keeps coming up over and over again. And it just keeps compounding that I'm. It just keeps to me proving that I'm right. Um, that I'm not delusional. I guess that is the thing. So that should be sort of similar. This is issue 43. So normal, I think issue 43. I don't think Cypress solves any issues. Like if there's a Cypress issue, I'll make an issue over there and then I'll do it. But um, and then this implements, isolates, and implements buttons for update view. I think that's good. Isolates and implements buttons for update. So we're going to get and we're going to push that. Now I think on the space and time, I mean on the Cypress, I believe I'm just working straight on the main. I'm not doing anything. And that's like the other thing is, as time, like when I was a kid, the best way to do things, like so in the 1970s and 1980s, the best way life didn't change nearly as fast as it does now. Or at least maybe I kind of came up into that with the way things are, so it didn't appear to change the way things do now. But in this year, um, yeah, so if I click in this, um, yes, I only have one branch main. I just updated something to it 5 minutes ago. So I just did that again. I just validated what I thought was true, and that gives me a mental buoying, a mental happiness. But yeah, things didn't change. So like you really wanted to come up with like kind of one way of doing things. Okay, this is how I do things. I wake up in the morning, I do this, I do that, and then I go do this. And you want to come up with like a plan and one way of doing things and just rinse and repeat. Just do it over and over again. But now in 2026 in the United States, in Marietta, Georgia, in computer programming, in my current life, you have to do things differently based on the context that you're in. There's just no one way of being. Um, and it's a shame because it is harder. It's much, much harder. Um, but it is much more interesting. So there's that. But so on that one, on the other one, all I did was I'm working on main. I made a change. I pushed it. It's still on main. And this one, I pulled out my code. I built out a branch. Now I'm merging it back into main. Um, and it's just because they're different situations. One of them is a very difficult, complex thing that has all kinds of easy to not understand problems, and the other one. Now I'm just going over the code real quick. This is that display none. Um, and then the other one is more of a much less complex, much easier to understand. That's why, like, if I was in charge of a software development team, I would probably start literally every single person, even BAs, even non-coders, everybody would start on end-to-end testing. Um, if nothing else, they would describe exactly what the end-to-end testing is supposed to be doing or something like that, like maybe comments or something like that. But end-to-end testing, like if you had a very thorough end-to-end testing thing, that would be one of the easiest ways to um, generate um, code. I mean, that would be the easiest way to understand this, how the whole system works. And then additionally, um, it would be a great way for people, because a lot of times people are actually really good coders and they don't even realize it. All right, so it's ready to merge the pull request. All right, what are we working on next? Do I have another issue that I'm working, or do I have to figure out what I'm doing next? Okay, yeah. So we need to come up with another. So I think the next thing is to actually make Zoom work. Or is it to actually, I guess it would be to actually make the Mac. Okay, so we need two issues, right? One issue is to one make Zoom work in the visualization. And I'm just going to create that, and then another new issue is to make min-max work. Configured slash max view work, and then create. And now, I feel like I don't know. I think the other one is more architectural. The min-max one is more architecturally challenging. Um, I don't know. Min-max, but the zoom is all okay. So I think actually zoom is more architecturally challenging because zoom has a potential. It's part of the camera, so it has to override whatever the zoom is, and we can't lose it. This one has to stay the same. This one will not affect anything that actually affects the visualization. So I think this is the better one to work on for now. I can't like I went back and forth on that, but check out locally, copy that, close this, assign this to myself, come back over here, Control V, and that is what we will begin working on tomorrow. Happy coding, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.